welcome back to the Phil Rosenberg Show. I'm your host, Phil Rosenberg. We in the United States have just been through an election. Everyone living through this political moment knows how fraught our conversations have been with the opposing points of view. Tonight, we're going to have a question and answer session with two first-time voters. One of them who cast their vote for the current U.S. President, Donald Trump, and the other who cast her vote for former Vice President Joseph R. Biden. Margaree, thank you very much for joining me this evening. You're 20 years old, you're a musician, you're an artist, and you are passionate about equality and justice. You're a junior at NYU's Gallatin School of Individualized Study, majoring in media, culture, and entertainment. You've lived in China and Japan. You speak both Mandarin, I think it is, and Japanese quite well. You're also studying Korean and German. Did I get that all right?
Yeah, that's perfect. And thank you so much for having me on the show as well.
Pleasure's mine, of course. Nate Palmer, he's 19 years old. He's involved in politics both in his school and his community. He's a sophomore studying business management at King's College in New York City. Nate does a lot of charity work through his family's foundation, the Elgin Children's Foundation. Margaree, what's going through your mind? It's a tough moment in our culture right now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of my time in different countries where a lot of the conversation is around differences. So I always think it's important to have a dialogue.
You voted for Biden.
Yeah, and I voted for Biden.
Why did you do that?
It really came down to livelihood for me. I believe that Biden was really the best pathway, especially in this time of COVID, systemic racism, sexism, the whole 9 yards.
All right, Nate, thank you for being here. You voted for Donald J. Trump. What is it about him that you find so engaging? Why your support for him?
One of the main reasons I voted for him was really his foreign policy. I think he has been one of the best ones we've had in decades, pretty much since Reagan. I think his non-interventionist policies align more with my beliefs. I don't think we should be kind of the police state of the world. And him pulling troops out of the Middle East has been especially good for me. Also, I think the fact that he is not your typical politician was definitely a pro for me. When a lot of the time you get the people who have been in politics longer than I've been alive, sometimes twice as long than I've been alive. And you do kind of need to shake things up a little bit.
Let me start off with you, Nate. If you had to name your top three most important issues that you make your decision based on these three issues, what would they be?
Foreign policy, obviously. I would say the Second Amendment and then also the First Amendment. I think that is the most important amendment we have, and that's what really sets us apart as a country.
Okay, Margaree, same question for you. Top three issues.
For me, in really no particular order, it goes climate change, healthcare, and creating more equality in our system. And I think that doesn't just apply to people in America, but also with foreign policy.
Margaree, let me ask you, what is white privilege?
White privilege is basically what gives white people easier access to jobs, housing, healthcare, without thinking about how someone without white privilege can live and prosper.
Nate, do you feel comfortable with Trump's response to white privilege?
Not at all, no. For as good of a communicator as he is, I think he has completely botched that issue.
Okay, so let me ask you the same question, Margaree. One of the gripes about Biden is that he hasn't always been on the right side of racial questions. So are you satisfied with Biden's stated position on white privilege?
I agree that with what he said and that we need to condemn it and that we need to take responsibility for it. However, I would like to see him with his policy really back that up, especially with how much of the effects that Donald Trump's words have had on society.
Okay, Nate, I want to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about U.S. immigration policy. A lot of our questions are going to be framed awkwardly because Trump is the president right now. So the questions for Biden are kind of in the hypothetical, whereas the questions about Trump are about like what he's done already or what he espouses. In terms of U.S. immigration policy, do you approve of Donald Trump's policy? And what do you think about the wall?
I do think that the separation of families at the border is not great. I realize that's not technically his policy. That was one that was just handed to him. But I think the continuation of that is not necessarily wrong in the sense of like a legal sense, but more of like a moral sense. And then when it comes to the wall, it is kind of what I think most politicians use as kind of just a media stunt. He uses it for promotion, and it's frankly a waste of money. Most of the border has a natural wall, whether it's cliffs or a river.
My biggest problem with it is that the pathway to citizenship in the United States really makes it hard to be a legal immigrant, as people tend to stress. Being an illegal immigrant frames someone as having done something wrong. And right now, we're at a place where people who are seeking asylum can't even get access to that in this country. I agree with Nate. It is kind of stunt to get people feeling safer, but it's more metaphorical in a sense that people feel that their way of life in America is being threatened.
Okay, Margaree, what are your top 3 most read or viewed media outlets?
So I most often listen to NPR, the New York Times, and equally between MSNBC and online sources that I find through Twitter or Instagram.
Nate, same for you. What are the most common 3 sources for you to consume?
3 most common would be the Wall Street Journal, read the Daily Wire a little bit, and then Reuters.
Those are kind of centrist, kind of left already. I was going to ask, what are your...
I try to get it from as many sources as I can. So whether it's Fox or really anything, if I hear it on one side, I always try and go to a different side.
What do you like on the left?
I don't really read anything that's like what I would consider super far left. I guess probably the most far left I'll read is like probably either like Huffington Post or something like that, or MSNBC. But as left goes, I don't really delve super deep into what us on the right would call like the far left.
Margaret, let me ask you, do you read any outlets that are known for being slanted right?
Yes, I've definitely looked at things that are super far right, such as Breitbart. I've looked at, sometimes I'll turn on the TV and look at Fox and whatever they're saying. I've also seen more on the conspiracy side, like things from Alex Jones and InfoWars.
What do you think of Nate's choices?
I think that Reuters and the Wall Street Journal are definitely great places to start, especially with the Wall Street Journal. You're talking really about what Nate said he cares about: economics, foreign policy. I also agree with you, Philip. I don't think that those are necessarily super right outlets either. So I think that's really a good place to be.
Nate, what do you think of Margaree's choices for media consumption?
I think you should pull from both sides a little more. But I mean, overall, I don't really have a problem really with whatever media you watch, as long as it's factually based.
Has Trump done a good job vis-a-vis the pandemic?
As a leader go, you can't really prepare for something that happened like this so quickly. It doesn't really matter who would have been president when it hit. I think from at least the logistics point of view, it would have been very hard to contain it. Now, from a media point of view, I do think he downplayed it a little too much at starting out, but he did eventually kind of switch back to the more scientific point of view and less of the political point of view.
What do you think of Trump's position on masking?
I don't agree with him. I think you should wear a mask. I don't think it should be mandated.
So pro-choice?
Yes, essentially.
Margaret, same question for you. What do you think of Trump's handling of the pandemic?
Absolutely disastrous, especially because I have spent time in China. I've spent time in Japan, where wearing a mask is no big deal. It's not an inconvenience. And seeing how Trump has encouraged people to have this irreverent attitude towards it, as if it's something that is oppressive towards people, is really disappointing.
Is there any position of Trump's that you can name that you can say unqualified, Trump has done a really good job here?
I can't name anything specifically that I'm really 100% for.
Interesting. Okay. Nate, can you name a policy of Joseph R. Biden's that you support?
Removing power from the intelligence agencies, more specifically the NSA, after the Snowden leaks was a very good policy on his part.
Okay, guys, I want to move on to the next part of the show. I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask the other person a question, and then you're going to have an opportunity to respond to whatever they've said, and then we'll all hug and sing Kumbaya.
I'd like to know, what are your opinions on Trump's Middle Eastern policies?
I think pulling troops out of the Middle East is really important, but also what responsibilities are we taking to repair the damage that has been done over the last, say, 15 years in those areas? Because, you can't just kind of have your troops in an area and then dip and expect things to go the way you want. We've seen this with Iran and the power vacuums that get created when that happens. Also, I don't agree with how he's dealt with the nuclear deal. I think keeping checks on nuclear power is one of the most important issues of our era. And if we're not on board with that type of thing, how can we expect places like Iran and North Korea to be on board with that as well? And we've seen them start to develop those types of weaponry again. And I'm actually quite concerned about that.
I think there's really no point of having a deal in if only one party is going to follow it and the other party has done absolutely nothing to follow the deal. I mean, Iran said that they had no intention of following it even when they made it under the Obama administration and continued the nuclear programs under that deal.
Okay. So, Margaret, go ahead and ask a question to Nate. Go ahead.
Is foreign policy and changes with that worth more than internal issues such as healthcare and minimum wage and equality in the US, and also dealing with COVID?
At this point in time, it is. Throughout pretty much the last 2 to 3 administrations, not including Trump's, the U.S. foreign policy has been that our goal is to police the world and assert our dominance over everyone else. And I think if we can pull our attention as a country away from whether it's the Middle East or Vietnam or China or other places like that, we can more easily focus it and our own resources at home.
Yeah, I totally agree with the policing other countries. I don't think that has benefited us as a country. I don't think it's benefited other countries. However, for the past 4 years, a lot of our concerns have been kind of pushed under the rug and ignored as Trump goes through with pushing his foreign policy through.
Do you think Biden will change as politician?
Well, my answer to that is he better change in the next 4 years, because a lot of people on the left already were kind of hesitant about Biden because of his past with the prison system. So we're not just going to sit back and go, phew, Biden's the president, we don't have to pay attention anymore to politics. I think more than ever, we have to be engaged and watchful over what he does.
Honestly, I kind of agree with you there. I think that you should be watching the politicians and president a little more closely, especially when they say they're going to do something and they never really end up doing it.
What do you think that Trump could do over Biden in terms of climate change and dealing with this crisis?
He has the ability to strong arm things through. As really like the sustainable energy thing goes, I think Trump would be able to more clearly put forward that coal and oil really aren't efficient and in reality are going to be more costly than, say, switching everything over to nuclear.
But you just have to note that Trump, as far as I know, doesn't recognize climate change as a terribly important issue.
No, I don't think he does.
So should Trump change his point of view about that, were he to have another 4 years?
I do believe that he should recognize that climate change is happening. The actions he takes on that shouldn't probably be quite as strict or stringent as Biden's policy on, no fossil fuels, but I think it was 2034. It'll be very hurtful to the U.S. economy and put a lot of people out of work. I have plenty of friends and family who work in the oil fields.
We're at the end of the show. I want to give you guys an opportunity to plug the things that are important to you. So Nate, tell me a little bit about the Elgin Children's Foundation.
Yeah, so it was started by my grandfather. He was a coal miner down in kind of like the tri-state area of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. And what his foundation does is helps promote literacy and dental services to kids down there. So what they do is they run a writing program. Most kids down there are 3 or 4 grades behind when it comes to literacy rates. And most of them don't have access to any form of dental health care. So most of them, by the time they're 12, don't really have any teeth. They have a mobile dental office and they drive that around and they give kids free dental and then also provide free education on writing and things like that.
That's great. And Margaree, tell us about Solidarity Masks.
So Solidarity Masks was a foundation started by one of my friends from school, and all 100% of the proceeds go to a charity of your choice. So if you head over there and choose what you want to donate to, they'll make you the masks and send it forth, and they have Christmas theme right out now. Also a Hanukkah theme as well, very inclusive. So that just is a great way to put something forth to a foundation that you care about or a cause that you care about, and also get some proper public safety hygiene.
Guys, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. Truly, one of the most fun shows we've done so far, and we're going to do a lot more like that because this was so much fun. Thanks. Have a wonderful night, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, this is Phil of the Phil Rosenberg Show, and I'm here to ask you to do me a small favor. Just take your finger, reach out, click the button that says subscribe. Just take your finger, reach out, and click the button that says subscribe. I need a bunch of subscribers. The more subscribers I have, something good happens. I don't even know what that is. They tell me I got to have more subscribers. I believe them. So please do that for me. I'd appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the show.